TxStampin Sharon. I am bringing you 3 different Christmas cards today, and I hope that one of them inspires you. As we begin making our holiday cards, we get so many different ideas, but I hope that these cards kind of get you going in maybe a non-traditional way. Anyway, if you do not currently have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. You can find out how to contact me below the video or visit my store. Hey, while you're down there, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And after you subscribe, then hit that little bell. You'll be notified every time I upload a video like this or I do a YouTube Live. Let's make some Christmas cards. Today we're going to be playing with a stamp set from the Holiday Mini Catalog. If you do not have this catalog and you currently do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to send you one for free. You can request the catalog down below the video. Just click the Show More button. The stamp set that we're using is called Merriest Moments, and I really want to talk to you about this because, so when you purchase it as a bundle, you get the stamp set, the dies, and the folder. So that's the whole bundle, okay? You can get just the folder, but let me just show you a really cool thing about this folder combined with the dies. So here is the folder. It is a 3D folder, so it's thick. But the coolest thing is this is a hybrid folder. So with the hybrid folder, you can take the die and kind of lock it into place on the side that has the logo. This system will work in any die cutting machine, not just the Stampin' Up! Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Any die cutting machine that has a wide enough base, this will work, okay? When we featured a previous hybrid, I got lots of questions. So it won't work in just any machine? No, the answer is it will work in any machine, okay? So it's a really cool concept, and it allowed me to make this beautiful card that I embossed and cut out at the same time, the beautiful white leaves and the sentiment layer, okay? Now the sentiment layer itself, this right here, is totally separate. I did use Mint Macaron, so we're just gonna get started making this card, and I do have 2 other cards. This is pretty much a non-traditional color scheme, but I didn't wanna use red because it was just too bold against my Mint Macaron, okay? The leaves especially. But I do wanna show you all of the dies. Oops. Well, you've already met the big one that goes right here. So this is what I use to cut out my sentiment layer. Here's my small poinsettia, and then here's my big one. And then I have a way to just cut out, without embossing per se, just cut out that layer. I did not use this for any of my cards, but hey, I still have a lot of other cards that I can be making for my Christmas cards. Here is the stamp set. I love the big bold fonts. It really takes up that whole front of my card, and I always love that. So I have my basic white layer, and it's just really more of like 4 inches by 5 1/4, and that is to cut out using my embossing folder and die. And then I have a piece of scrap paper. This is going to be used for my poinsettia, my leaves, and my sentiment layer. I have a piece of Mint Macaron, designer series, this pattern of the designer series paper, and this came from the Whimsy and Wonder, which is what inspired me to go with this color scheme. Look at different things whenever you're trying to pick colors. You're like, well, that's a softer green that I normally would choose, but I really do love my card. So I love this pattern out of the pack. And then I have a piece of basic white that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 that will go on the inside of my base. So I'm using Mint Macaron and Flirty Flamingo, more in the pink family, not so bold red like I said. So I'm just gonna stamp my poinsettia and my leaves. I want 2 big ones, and then I want a smaller one. I'm going to use Daffodil Delight for the center of my poinsettia. Now, I could have done a bigger poinsettia. Let me get my sample here. I could have done the bigger poinsettia and then had this one on the inside, but I chose to go with just one petal because of all of this happening up here, and it really was too big of a poinsettia because of my sentiment. So mine's gonna be just a little plain one. And now I'm gonna take this to my die cutting machine and cut everything out. I think I told y'all wrong. I think I told you that the piece that I was using to cut this out was just 4 inches by 5 1/4. It was it was 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 because you really want to make sure you have enough room. Another thing I want to point out, you do not want to put just any die inside of any embossing folder. You want to make sure that it is a hybrid folder. Just want to reiterate that. We're going to give our base, our card base a good crisp fold, and I'm going to add some adhesive. Add our layer. I know that some of y'all are already done with your Christmas cards, but I'm not. This is my way of making Christmas cards. I just make a bunch of videos with different cards so that I have a different assortment, but really it's to give you ideas. It's to inspire y'all when you are doing your holiday card making. So let's see, I liked it a certain way. I think this was it. So it really does cover up a lot of my designer series paper. However, I didn't like it just plain, so this soft muted mint macaron was perfect. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit more stamping. We're gonna use our mint macaron again. Stamp our sentiment. I always like to hold that on for a few seconds to get all that ink transferred over to my cardstock. Now we're going to add our little die cuts. Oh, I was like, I'm missing some. So in true Stampers fashion, I made a decision. The card that I showed you first, let me get my sample, only had just the poinsettia like that. And I was like, well, you silly goose, you could just add it like that. It doesn't take up any more room. So that's what we're gonna do. I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of liquid glue. That way, if I wanna spin it around, I can. And just, yep, see, we can spin it. There we go. Okay, since we are using an embossed layer here, I am going to use my liquid glue, and I'm just going to add my leaves like this. And I had a small one. We'll put this right here. Whoops, a little bit of glue. Oh, one more. We have one more leaf. You could easily add more leaves if you wanted to, but I just stuck to the 3. And then we're going to add our sentiment layer. And it will just hold those leaves in place even more. And then we can take our poinsettia. That looks way better now. We'll add a little bit of liquid glue since we have that handy. And add our sentiment layer so that we can do lots of writing to send. Now I want to show you my other cards here again with the same non-traditional dark reds, dark greens. But I opted, since the there's kind of a hologram. How do you pronounce that? Anyway, the little shimmer of the stars on my designer series paper. It's the same Wonder and Whimsy. And then I decided to do some embossing. Anytime I can do embossing for Christmas cards, I just feel like it's fancy, it's more elegant. And so I stuck with the Flirty Flamingo, but I know that a lot of y'all don't want to do non-traditional colors. So here is your card. I just took, I left the layer like it was, and I just used the embossing folder and I embossed the whole thing. And I loved how it turned out because I don't think you can tell, but there's like little snowflakes all around. So you still get that on that layer right there, little snowflakes. When you just emboss that 4 inches by 5 1/4. I didn't tell you guys, but I do have a download on my blog. You guys are loving my downloads. You say that it helps you. You may not be using it exactly the way I've done it, but it helps you remember. So if you'll just click the show more button, then you'll be able to go to my blog and get the free download to remember these 3 cards with all the measurements and supplies that I used. So I hope that I've inspired you. I hope I've helped you in some small way. Happy stamping, y'all.